Greetings viewers, EricTheCarGuy here, back again with another episode of Fixing It Forward with the 2003 Nissan Sentra SE-R. Yes, I'm finally saying it right now. This hopefully will be the final episode with this Nissan, as Jerry and his son Brian are coming to pick up the car today and drive it away. We're just about done, but we've got a couple of things that we've been leaving off to the side to the very end. One of the things was brought up to me recently by Brian in an email exchange. He had reminded me that the horn for this vehicle wasn't working. So I decided to take a look at that actually last night to see if I could track down the problem, and I have a clip for you here. Okay, the horn actually lives down here behind the front bumper. It's powered by this fuse right here. It's a 10 amp fuse in this fuse box out here, and it has a relay right here over in this relay box to give you a better view. So that is the horn circuit in essence. What I did to diagnose this was I first went to the horn itself just to see if it would work. I was going to disconnect this connector from the horn and just power the horn up directly. I often do that. I often start at the load whenever I'm dealing with an electrical problem like this. Horn circuit's simple. It's really just fuse, relay, button inside the dash, and the horn. The button inside the dash controls the relay over here. And in order to verify that circuit, what I did was I went into the terminal where the relay goes and put my power probe in there and hit the horn button, and every time I did, it beeped and told me there was a ground. Sort of a weak little horn, power probe horn. So I know everything from this part of the circuit over to the relay was good. I knew everything from the relay over to the horn was good, because all I had to do was supply power to the ground side, which this ground side is the signal that goes to the horn with power. What was strange is that this is the fuse here, and the fuse had power on both sides. So I knew the fuse is good, but what that told me was the fuse is good, and I have no power over to here, and the way the wiring diagram is the only thing in between the fuse box and this is one wire, which is that green wire with a black tracer. So with no power here, I knew my problem was the power feed from the fuse box going to the relay that was missing, and that was the whole reason why there was a problem. Replace the wire, all good now. So here's the finished wire after install, after everything's all put together. It runs right along the existing harness on the outside. I didn't tether it down or anything. I suppose I could have zip tied it or whatever, but I don't think it's going anywhere. I've wrapped it around different items going through. I don't think it'll be an issue. Now, the horn works, everything is good to go. It's all back together. Now we need to address the check engine light, which was the other thing that I had left to the end. Now, when we did the timing chain and the water pump and all that stuff, we had the battery disconnected, and all those codes have been erased. The codes that came up were a P0011 and a P0340, and both of those had to do with the cam sensor. I'm going to leave those on the table for now because we just replaced the timing chain. It was significantly loose, and that loose timing chain could have been the cause of those codes. So if they come back up, we'll look into that, but for right now, we'll say the timing chain cured that. Hasn't come up since we did any test drives or anything. Check engine light has not come back on. However, the P0455 and the P1448 all have to do with evaporative emissions, and I suspect something to do with the canister vent valve that's in the back there. Especially since when it first came in, I was doing the initial inspection, I was back towards that rear corner where the canister is, and I smelled fuel. I'm walking by this area, going to the other side, and I smelled gas a little bit. Well, guess what's right here? Take a look. That's the charcoal canister for the evaporative emission system, and we have a code for that. I don't know if we have a code for the charcoal canister, but there's a code for a gross leak. And the fact that I smelled gasoline as I'm walking by here could mean an external leak somewhere. I believe I know exactly what's going on back there, and I have a test to verify that belief now to see if we can solve that problem. So let's bust out my scan tool, hook it up, see if we can't solve that evap problem right now. I've got my Encore scan tool here. Initializing GUI, GUI interface, initialize. Select vehicle. Let's see, I know I've pulled this up before. Where are you, where are you? Sentra. Engine. This is one of the easier ways to test evap issues because the scan tool can activate some of the solenoids, this is my plan. My plan is to activate the solenoid itself and see if it operates. And if it doesn't operate, then I'll plug in, I actually have a replacement sensor here. The most common cause of this code that comes up is this valve, and I just took the shotgun approach and decided to have one on hand in case I needed it. Evap test, canister drain cut valve. Okay, let's do that. Engine should not be running during this test. Down here at the bottom, I've got on, off, and exit. So let's try on. Now I'm assuming that that is turning the valve on, and that would be turning the valve off. I should hear a clicking back there in the back. Let's put this up in the air and go by that valve and turn it on and off and see if it's doing what it's supposed to do, because I don't think it is. I think when I hit this button, I should hear a click and it should be open, or whatever. I'm not sure if it opens or closes, but either way, I should hear a click when I do that. Should hear another one when I do that. I hear nothing. Let's talk for a moment about evaporative emission systems. This is the charcoal canister. This is the valve in question, which controls fresh air coming into the canister. Now, why would you need that? Well, first let's talk about what the canister does. It sequesters fuel vapor. That's why it's called the evaporative emission system. And if you look at some of these pipes and things, you'll see that it leads right back to the fuel tank that is there not too far away from it. Now, with that in mind, the vapors that are in the fuel tank, instead of just evaporating out into the atmosphere, are sent to this canister and sequestered into a certain time as to where the computer says, all right, the engine's running at just the right place, and let's going to release some of those vapors into the engine to be burned and consumed and not go into the atmosphere, at least not as raw hydrocarbons. You can't just draw those fumes out of here. You have to have fresh air behind it. So you have to have fresh air coming in, and that's what this valve does. And that's why when I smelled fuel vapors, you'll see this has a pipe that goes right back here by this back bumper that is the path of the fresh air coming into the canister, which when this solenoid opens up, those fuel vapors go where they go. I believe this guy isn't working. When I turn it on, right here with the scan tool, which I have in my hand, this guy should click. He's not clicking. Not hearing anything. Since I have the new part, I'm going to unplug this, plug the new part in, and see how it reacts. Here's our new valve. Thanks to Car Part Kings. Thanks, Car Part Kings. There's two styles of these on the Sentras. One has bolts that hold it down, and one just pops into place. So know that there are two different part numbers, depending upon which year you have. Plug it into this one. This is our new sensor. And now, let's turn it on. Hear that? This one's working, the other one is not. I say that's pretty much definitive proof that replacing this will solve our problem. Simply gonna unhook the old one. I'm gonna take this off of here for now. Two 10mm fasteners hold it into place. I have to wonder why there isn't a mud flap or some kind of cover over the top of this thing, because it seems that road debris and salt and all that stuff just goes right up onto here. I'm not an engineer. I couldn't say. I can understand putting it in close proximity to the tank because you use less hoses and less hardware and everything to hook the system up, but yeah, it is what it is. Ew. That looks like it's coated with sealer or something. Weird. I wonder if somebody went in here trying to seal this up. No matter, let's put the correct part in place. Got my new part here. I put a little bit of silicone paste on the O-ring before installation to try to make installation a little bit easier. The part came with two new fasteners that I'm going to be using as well. I really wish they hadn't put all that goop in there, but whatever. Electrical connection, hose connection. Let's test it once again just to make sure it's clicking on and off. Still working. Problem solved. All right, we've solved the evap issue, we've solved the horn issue. There's a couple of little loose ends, and that would be a new set of wiper blades. The old ones are kind of old and crusty. And I made mention in the previous video about the steering wheel being all yuck, and I was using my gloves on it and I didn't care because I got one of these. This purchased with viewer donations. It was only $7. It'll be a nice upgrade to the steering wheel though, and actually make it feel a lot better. In addition, these doors, really difficult to open and close back here. Put a little bit of lubrication on them, make them work a little bit better. I mean, it's pretty bad. Close. Gonna start with the doors. I have some grease for the stay, and I have a little bit of penetrating lubricating spray for the hinge, because honestly, it's hard to tell if it's the hinge or if it's the stay. This is the stay. This is the thing that prevents the door from opening up too far. It only goes so far. So I'm gonna start by hitting the hinge with some lubricant. And the lower one also. If I were to guess, I'd imagine that's where the bulk of it is. And I'm gonna put the grease here on the stay, both on the top and the bottom. And now we open the close of the door a bunch of times, work those lubricants in. This is pretty bad. I haven't had one this bad, I don't think ever. But if I'm gonna guess, I'm gonna say that's the hinge more than it is the stay. A lot of times those stays, they used to make them out of metal, like on my Acura, and those would get rusted up and have problems. These are plastic, so there's no chance of that kind of corrosion. But the hinge is metal, and that's a different story. Might even use a little bit more spray, but it's moving easier. I don't think this door's been opened in a while. But now if someone does, they'll at least be able to open it without too much resistance. A little more spray, I think. Oh yeah. I can close it now. Couldn't do that before. Yeah, I know, this thing could probably use a bath too. Almost. Same thing. These stays also have little bumps in them to hold the door in different positions, so that if you're parked on a hill and pointed down this way and gravity is making the door want to close, it holds it in place. I think that's one of the reasons they call it a stay also. There we go. Nothing a little lube won't fix. Now let's change out those wiper blades. Rain Eater hooked us up with these. Would help if I pushed it the right way, wouldn't it? If at first you don't succeed, pay attention. Oh, and don't leave these up like this while you're doing stuff. You can accidentally bump them and they can come down and crack the windshield. Don't do what EricTheCarGuy does, kids. Cool. All better. Viewer contributed steering wheel cover. This one, well, look at it. It's a little gross. These things are inexpensive and easy. Just need to get them on there right. And I'm just trying to line it up in my head here. That should be pretty easy, straightforward. It's just something that slips over the outside. I'm trying to make sure it's lined up. Nothing would be more annoying than driving down the road with a slightly off steering wheel cover. I know it would bug me. I put one of these on my Acura Vigor not long ago and improved my driving experience immensely. It's amazing how little things do so much. Look at that. It's like new, like it was there the whole time. Seriously, it was about $7. In a previous episode, we had noticed that the air filter was a bit dirty. Viewer contributed, has now purchased a new air filter for this vehicle. Not very expensive. And not difficult to install at all. Please try this at home. See, that's why we're replacing it. Our engine's gonna be so happy with us. Oh. There we go. All done. And guess what? I think that's it. I think that's it. I think all we do now is wait for Jerry and Brian to show up, take them on a test drive, see what they think. I'm excited. Should be here soon. Well, viewers, Jerry and Brian Hall are back to pick up the Nissan. Yay! So why don't we go around, talk a little bit about some of the things that we fixed and did on the Nissan and see what these guys think of the results. Take them out on a test drive when we're all done. What do you guys think?
Well, from what you've said, you've done a lot on it. I'm waiting now.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
and I think the car that you're going to be driving today was not the same car that you dropped off.
Well, it's a fun car. That's the reason I didn't want to get rid of it.
I wouldn't want to get rid of it either. I'm kind of in love with it, actually, and I'm reluctant to give it back to you. But it's your car. So why don't we talk a little bit about some of the stuff we did and then get you down the road.
Great. Well, of course, one of the problems I had was that check engine light.
Yes.
And at looking at it, we found that it was probably a timing chain.
You were correct in that.
Was bad.
You were correct. In fact, the timing chain probably stretched, it looked like it was almost about 8 millimeters, which is pretty significant.
Yes.
For a timing chain. And they don't technically stretch. What happens is each one of the links wears a little bit and increases the length.
It's an cumulative thing.
It's exactly correct.
Exactly.
So it doesn't technically stretch. A lot of people say that, it's
Right.
worn. So we just like saying worn. But not only that, but in fact, I've got the parts over here on the bench if you want to check them out.
Oh, absolutely.
All right. So here is the old timing chain. And your car actually has two. Anything over 2 liters requires a balance assembly. So this chain drives the balance assembly, and this chain drove the crankshaft and the 2 camshafts up above. And as I said, when we pulled the cover off, this is the tensioner, and this pushes on the back of this right here. So the chain rides inside of this, and then there's this tensioner with oil pressure behind it that pushes out against this.
Right, to pivot on that.
Exactly.
Okay.
So the more the chain wears, the farther this will stick out. It was sticking out about that far.
Whoa.
New, they stick out about that far.
Yeah.
So just to give you some idea. So you were correct in that. So one of the check engine lights was due to this.
The other one, the evaporation?
Precisely, and we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, you had codes for the camshaft not reading correctly. There's sensors that are monitoring the camshaft. As this gets loosened up, it's going to allow those cams to go all over the place because you've got valve springs that are pushing against the cam lobes while this is driving it. So if there's slack, instead of nice smooth movement of the cams, they'll do what I call chunking. So every time the valve spring pushes against the cam lobe, it moves in a quick manner, and it doesn't turn smoothly. It just sort of chunks, like I said, as it comes around.
That explains some of the strange noises we've heard.
Well, exactly. And also the computer won't understand that. It'll see the deceleration and acceleration, and it'll be like, hey, this is a bad signal that I'm getting, and possibly set those codes. In addition, this is the sprocket for the crank down there, and the inner one is for the timing chain, or no, the inner one is for the timing chain, and the outer one is for the balance assembly. One of the camshaft sprockets got replaced. The other one is part of that assembly that actually varies the timing of that camshaft. That one didn't get replaced, and it wasn't really necessary, but these other two did. Spark plugs. This is where it got interesting. The spark plugs were old, and they're very proud of these plugs, but you don't have to replace them but every 100,000 miles, so that's kind of nice. But the thing was, is when we pulled these the coil packs off the top of these, the wells where these sit down inside the engine were filled with oil, a couple of them, like really badly. It turns out that the valve cover, the gaskets, these are the gaskets here, this spring isn't supposed to be sticking out. The seals should look more like this, but they got all hard and brittle. So the oil was sneaking past there and getting down into the spark plug wells and filling these things up. Unfortunately, the only way that we're able to repair that was to replace the entire valve cover. They don't sell these seals separately. You have to buy the whole piece. Well, then it got even more interesting because we got an aftermarket valve cover to start with. When we put it on there, after doing the timing chain, this is your water pump also, which we replaced. And that is your serpentine belt tensioner, which was making some noise. So we replaced that, but get it all back together, start it up for the first time after doing all that work, and it's got really bad noise. And I was not happy to hear that, especially after doing all that work. But you could hear it coming from the valve cover, and I could sort of feel it whenever I touched it. So we took that valve cover back off and discovered, you see how this is sort of a wide
it's
protrusion here?
Right.
And this one's a little bit narrower?
Right.
The one that we put on had another wide one over here. And it was so wide, it was coming in contact with the camshaft as it was spinning around.
Wow. That's not good.
No, it wasn't good at all. So it actually broke this whole baffle loose in the process. So we went to Nissan, and actually the Nissan part wasn't more expensive than the aftermarket one. It was just like about $30 more expensive.
Wow.
So we ended up putting a Nissan valve cover on it. Noise is gone. Everything is happy.
Great.
All is right with the world. And the new one also came with a new PCV valve as well. So that got changed out. I think that covers the engine work. Initially, there was what sounded to me like an exhaust leak, but we had to drop the exhaust in order to take the oil pan off in order to do the timing chain. And after doing that and after getting the timing chain right, I don't hear the same exhaust noise that I did before. So maybe that magically got cured. I looked around for things. I didn't see any external leaks or what have you. Other than that, I mean, I'm actually really happy with the way this thing runs. That timing chain brought it right in line. It's
Great.
Very, very smooth. Why don't we go over to the car and I'll talk about some of the other stuff.
New radiator in it, so.
Yes, but it looked like it had some collision damage previously because like these hold downs
Right.
are a little loose. I don't think that's really going to be a bad thing, but it is good that it had the radiator in there. It also looked like the alternator had been replaced in the not too recent past.
I did that.
Yeah.
And so that was all done, but you can barely see our new valve cover peeking out from under there. And this brown wire, you had mentioned the horn, and I'm glad you did. I had just enough time to figure it out. And it turns out the power coming from the fuse, from that fuse box over to the relay here, was not there. So it was powered at the fuse, but there was no power here at the relay. Everything inside worked, the horn button and all that was triggering this, but it wasn't going off because there was no power. It turns out there's a break in the wire that runs from the harness from the fuse box over here. Rather than tearing apart that harness and trying to find that broken wire, I had some difficulty doing that. I just ran a new wire, which is that brown wire.
Sure.
Great.
So don't cut the brown wire unless you want to not have a horn anymore.
Looks like you changed that?
Yeah, I didn't change it. I actually repaired it. I remembered late that we had found something there. This is called a mass airflow sensor.
Right.
And what it does is it measures the incoming air coming into the engine.
Okay.
And in doing so, the computer calculates a fuel mixture based on what this sensor measures. Now, when I was in here doing some other work, I noticed that this had a really big crack in it. In fact, the whole backside of this had a huge gaping gash, and that's after the sensor. So it's unmetered air. It's referred to as pirate air. So in other words, it'll throw off the mixture of the engine, and it won't run correctly. I was going to replace this piece, but then I'd forgotten that it was even broken, and at the last minute decided to tape it up. As you see here, there's electrical tape underneath. So really, as long as there's no extra air getting in here, you're good.
Okay.
So that's how I chose to repair that. Also put in a new air filter. Yours was looking kind of old. We changed the coolant, obviously, because we changed the water pump at that same time. We didn't change the dry belt because it almost looked like that got changed maybe when the alternator got changed.
The serpentine?
The serpentine belt looked really new, so we left that, and I told you about the tensioner that we replaced. So there's a lot of new stuff here. Now going to the back, there's a new high pressure power steering hose coming off of the power steering pump going down to the power steering rack.
Right.
And I've got to say, probably one of the most challenging things on this car was replacing the power steering rack. The power steering rack was leaking. There were no leaks coming out of the engine or the transmission, even at 225,000 miles. There's no leaks in either one of those things, which was awesome. However, the power steering was letting you down. It's quite common for Nissans to have that high pressure power steering hose leak, but your power steering rack was also leaking. So we decided to replace that as well. As I said, that was kind of a challenge. Replace the outer tie rod ends at the same time. You had talked about the wheel bearing noise, which weirdly, I didn't initially hear when I took it out on the test drive until I was coming back.
Right, it needed to warm up. You could drive maybe 10, 15 miles, and at any speed, you could take it all the way up to 75.
Right.
And it wouldn't make a noise, and then suddenly it'd come.
Well, that's exactly the way it was acting for me, and I did hear the wheel bearing noise, and I did confirm that there was a bad wheel bearing over there.
Great.
We were able to replace that. In addition, the lower ball joint on that side was bad, like really, really bad, which might have contributed to that intermittent wheel bearing noise. It might have just offset that whole assembly
until
enough.
The bearing just
until the bearing
totally
was, yeah, exactly. So we replaced that ball joint. However, the ball joints that I got did not fit inside the control arm. So the ball joint on that side is actually welded into place.
Okay.
So
It's going nowhere.
Yeah, it's going nowhere. And even if it does come loose, there's no place for it to go because it goes up through the control arm and bolts to the knuckle.
Right.
It's welded to the control arm. So even if it broke loose from the control arm, there's no place for it to go because it's still attached to the knuckle up top. So I have every confidence that that repair is going to work. However, the only way to repair it in the future is probably going to be to replace the control arm. But I think it'll be a long time before we get there because the ball joint that's in there is serviceable. So as long as we keep servicing it, we'll be good. Same thing with the tie rod ends. But the suspension itself was in good nick. But what I did find was the brake caliper on that side was sticking.
Yeah.
And we replaced the caliper. I can't remember, honestly. I think we machined the rotors. Yeah, we machined the rotors. We replaced both front calipers also. So you've got new brakes up front.
Great.
Now, the brake hoses on this car had been replaced with some steel braided brake lines, which are great. And that's one of the reasons why this thing had such a great brake pedal feel. Unfortunately, the one that was on this side, up at its connection to the body, was leaking a little bit. So I didn't know what was leaking exactly, but I got brake hoses just in case. But in the process of doing the suspension work on that side, I actually broke the brake hose on that side. But I had them anyway, so I replaced them. But I replaced them with stock units that aren't steel braided. So the brake pedal feel is going to be a little bit different than it was. Still stops just fine, but those steel braided brake lines really give you a nice firm brake pedal feel. You still have them in the back, just not in the front.
Well, without ABS, this thing will stand on its nose if you're not careful.
Exactly. And the tires that we put on the other day will help aid in that tremendously. You had mentioned the suspension as you were going over bumps. You're kind of going all over the road, that kind of thing.
Right.
I looked the suspension over. I didn't see anything that was leaking. I didn't see anything other than what I spoke about earlier with the wheel bearing and everything else that was over there with the steering system. Didn't see anything that was sticking out that would say, there's a suspension issue. But the tires, well, those aren't my favorite tires. The ones you have on here now are my favorite tires.
Okay.
I have the exact same tires on my car. You're going to love them.
Now, did you say the other tires were the wrong tires?
They were a different size than what's supposed to be on the car. In fact, if we come over here, you notice how easy these doors open now?
Yeah.
I can tell you never open the back doors at all. Because I just spent some, exactly, that's what it was. But I spent some time on both these back doors, so you know, if you need to ever throw anything back here, you can do so. But here's a sticker that tells what the actual size of the tires is supposed to be. And the tires that were on here were a different size. They were close as far as the outer diameter, but they weren't the size that it was called for by the manufacturer. What's on here now are the correct size tires.
Great.
Love these tires. And we also service the rear brakes. As long as we're back here, the evaporative emissions check engine light code.
That was the other check engine.
That was the other check engine light code. Your charcoal canister, which is where those fuel vapors are sequestered, lives right back there behind that tire.
Okay.
When you initially brought it in and I was checking everything out, I noticed a fuel smell back there. And also the code that it came up with was for a valve that goes on the outside of that canister.
Okay.
I tested the valve, found the valve to be bad, I replaced it. Now it would be some time before an evaporative emission code would come back up, but I believe we've addressed that issue. So you shouldn't have anything with check engine lights coming on anymore either.
I gave him my code reader, so he'll have it on hand.
Okay, a couple of other things. Windshield wipers.
Yes.
We threw a set of those on there for you, and I didn't like your steering wheel. So we got you a steering wheel cover to go on top of that. So
Come on now, that other was the original that was flaking away.
Yeah, it was pretty sad. So we just decided to put that on there for you as well. Car Part Kings was a huge contributor for the parts on this thing. We also had AMSOIL hook us up with some oil it's going to be 10,000 miles before you need another oil change.
Oh, great.
On top of that, the viewers, more than anything else. I started a GoFundMe for Fixing It Forward. Viewers donated to that fund. They bought you the tires. They bought you several things outside of anything that wasn't provided by the sponsors that I mentioned.
Well, thank you very much to the viewers.
Yes,
Thank you.
They were completely awesome with this. So it was
greatly appreciated.
We were able to take this to a whole new level just because of that. So thank you, viewers. You are awesome.
Yes, thank you very much.
Outside of that, one last thing. I tried to get an alignment done on this because of all the suspension work and everything I did up front.
Right.
The place that I take the vehicles to get alignments done, their machine broke. They weren't able to do it.
Okay.
But I can't do alignments anyway.
Right.
So what I'm going to say to you is, whenever you get settled or whatever, take this in for an alignment.
Okay.
Call me up. I'll pay for it. So we'll just cover it.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you very much.
The fans of Fixing It Forward have covered it by the donations that they made.
Thank you again.
So that should square you up, and you'll be good to go.
Great.
Are you ready to drive this thing?
I can't wait.
Let's do it.
I'm right there.
Yes, you're like, let's go, Eric.
Let's go, Eric.
Close the hood, let's go, Eric.
All right, let's start it up.
I know. It's better already. From the moment I started it, after putting that timing chain on, it was just right.
Oh, listen to the sound of that.
I know, right? You can rev it.
Oh, listen to that. Wow.
Oh, wait till you get it on the road.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
Let's do it.
Oh, feel that steering. Is that a function of the rack and pinion?
Yeah, you got a whole new rack and pinion, which is in essence a whole new steering system.
Bear with me.
Do it. Oh, you were being nice.
No, I wasn't going to rob it.
Well, that's what I did.
Yeah, but for you, if it goes wrong, that's okay. For me to go wrong.
Nah. Well, it is your car. If I did it, then you'd be mad.
How nice this is.
See what I mean about the tires?
Yes.
The tires, in my opinion, make the car. It's like the clothes make the man, the tires make the car.
What a whole difference in sound.
Yeah. The lack of it.
Well, that's the point.
Yeah. It's quiet. It coasts.
Well, you have to remember that wheel bearing was making a ton of noise, too.
It was. It was indeed.
Oh, it rose so smoothly.
Yep. And I'm not too worried about the alignment because that steering wheel is pretty straight and it tracks down the road pretty straight. So I know I got it pretty close.
Boy, this has got a lot of go to it now.
Yep. And even over the bumps, it's a lot more sure-footed.
Yes, it is.
That's those tires.
Yeah, feel that. I mean, it's always had a firm suspension.
Right. It's a sports car, in essence.
Oh, yes. That's the reason I was very hesitant to let go of it.
I wouldn't want to let go of this car. Yeah. I especially don't want to let go of it now. I'm sad to see it go. But it's your car, so I got to give it back.
It's a fun little car, isn't it?
Oh, I love this car. This car had me at hello, pretty much. I mean, even broken when I took it down the road. I was impressed.
Normally I'd slow down, but I wanted to feel that suspension.
Exactly. You don't have to anymore. Yeah, this time don't be scared. I love it.
Oh, listen how that engine runs.
Yep. He's smiling.
Oh, yeah. How could I not smile?
I love it. I love it. Got a lot of good videos that I think the viewers are really going to enjoy.
Good. Good. Yeah, it would be a shame if you didn't get something more out of it than just fixing it.
No, it's not just me. The whole audience, they're going to get, well, they're going to know how to fix the Nissan Sentra SE-R. That's for sure. We covered about every system.
Oh, such a nice ride.
So you're happy with the result?
Oh, beyond happy. Awesome. Beyond happy.
Awesome.
Thank you very much to you and all you contributors. It's really nice.
Well, thank you.
I'm sure there might have been other people more deserving than me, but...
Sir, I can think of no one more deserving than a veteran. So, thank you for your service.
And I'm sure there are other veterans that maybe needed it more than I did, but thank you. Thank you very much.
You're most welcome. Most welcome. And in our eyes, you were absolutely deserving, and we're happy to do it. So, Jerry, how have you been doing since last we saw you?
Doing well. Doing well. The VA Dayton takes good care of me.
That's great to hear.
I go in a lot, and they provide the services to keep me going.
Well, awesome. As far as your car, how are you feeling about the car?
This is phenomenal. This is phenomenal.
Awesome.
I mean, it's a car I didn't want to get rid of. It's a nice car. It's a fun car.
I love this car. In fact, I'm reluctant to give it back to you, but you can have it back.
I can have it back. Thank you very much.
We've had our fun. And thank you, Brian, for bringing them to us.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
And Eric.
Yes, thanks you.
Again.
And we also should thank our contributors to this series of Fixing It Forward for the 2003 Nissan Sentra SE-R, Car Park Kings in particular, also Amsoil, Rain Eater, and especially you, the viewers, that contributed to Fixing It Forward. There'll be a link down in the description for that if you wish to participate. Other than that, I say we can close this one out. If you have automotive questions, I'd ask you to head over to EricTheCarGuy.com. There's stuff over there that can help you with those automotive questions, so go there for automotive questions. Socially, if you wish to connect with me, Google+, Facebook, Twitter, also Instagram. Close each of my videos with be safe, have fun, stay dirty.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next time on the next episode of Fixing It Forward. Thanks for watching. Jerry brought me a ham.
That's for your family now.
Oh, for my family. Well, I can't eat the whole thing. Well, not.
Oh, I don't know. That's good.
Not in one sitting. But thank you.
You're very welcome. My pleasure. I mean, after you've done this, how could I help and not?
Well,
do
this was
something?
fun. This helped us both because I got some really great videos out of this also.
Great.
Looking forward.